Hey, real quick before we get into this video, this upcoming Saturday, April 5th, I'm doing my first OP10 format tournament for the One Piece card game. It will have the restriction list live, it will be online, and it will have Swiss into Top Cut as well. So if you haven't already, make sure to check it out, link in the description, and enjoy the video. Hey for one, Eggman here with another video, and today we've got my first tier list for the OP10 meta of the One Piece card game. Usually I like to try to make a tier list going on into the release week of a new set here, but with a combination of one being out of town and kind of in Japan, but also knowing that there's going to be a restriction list and not wanting to just make a tier list and then it be like immediately invalidated, I wanted to kind of wait depending on what the tier list looked like and then kind of what the meta kind of looked like around it too. So this is a unique format for us here in North America, which we don't get every time. Sometimes we get the exact format that Japan's been in previously. So because of that, I wanted to kind of make my own tier list based on my observations in these first couple weeks of OP10 and people testing with the new restrictions as well. So if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We're also probably going to make another tier list in the next couple weeks, probably closer to the release of EBO2 as well, as we've seen more and more results. But I do kind of just want to go over my thoughts going on into this format as well. So the tiers are top 5, so I kind of have this predetermined, but these are the 5 best leaders in the game right now by my own thoughts. We have highly competitive, so these should be topping most events, if not every event. Competitive is I expect it to get a top during this format. Potential is it has the potential to get a top, but it's not something that I'm currently like super duper thinking it's viable right now. And then unlikely is just that it's unlikely. There are so many leaders in this game right now too that I'm not going to say that I'm going to do every leader. If I don't mention a leader, it's probably potential or lower in my mind. And if there's any leaders though that I've missed, please let me know, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Again, this is a pretty volatile meta for the game, one of the most that we've seen, at least for the English version. So a lot more opinions right now, and again, once we get more data and more events, we'll be able to kind of see more of like the stats for leaders as well. But we're going to start off with our new 6 leaders that we got from the OP10 meta, and then also the new leader that we got from the Star Deck 21 as well. But starting off with Smoker, I'm going to put Smoker in highly competitive. This is probably my favorite leader with the new set in general. I do think it's really interesting on how like the value works for it. Getting 2 extra Dawn every turn towards the late game is just absurd. I think there's a lot of ways to be able to not only extend your plays and your combos, but also be able to put some pressure if needed. So this leader's been really interesting. I've been having a lot of fun with a lot of different builds too. I don't think this is a deck that has like a 45 card build. I think there's a lot of different ways to build it, and I think that's been a lot of fun there too. So we're going to put that in highly competitive. Caesar Clown is going to be probably my least favorite leader from this set. It does have potential to do things, but it's just kind of like worse Marco in my mind, and it's a little bit kind of gimmicky on if you see your Monet or not. Like your win weight like drops if you don't see your Monet. It is so dire how much you need that card. Like if there's like a backup like secondary copy, like a worse copy of Monet, but you could still use the effect for it, maybe Caesar Clown could be like a little bit better, but without it, it's just kind of in this really kind of weird janky spot in my mind. Then we also have Sugar. We're going to put Sugar in potential. I really do like the new Purple Doflamingo support that we got in this set, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more when we look at the green and purple Dofi. But generally speaking, I think Sugar's not a bad leader. I think red and purple has been proven as a really good color combination, time and time again, but there's nothing that it does super great. And I do think that when people figure out how to play around you and not give you the free ramp, the deck does a little bit worse too. The fact that you do get all this extra Dawn potentially at the end of your turn is really good and helps you defensively, but you don't always get that, and that's what really is like the issue with Sugar compared to something like green purple Dofi. So we're going to put it there in potential. And we also have green yellow Law. I'm going to put this in potential as well. I've seen a lot of people just kind of full commit to this leader in this set, and I'm really curious to see how it does on kind of a wider format as well. It's not the worst deck in the format by any means, and I do want to see what it looks like, but it's not something I think is going to top every event. But I do expect green yellow Law to top an event during this format, and we'll see if that ends up being the case. The next up we've got Usopp. We're going to put Usopp in probably highly competitive. I could definitely see this maybe drop to competitive throughout the next couple weeks, but we're going to leave it at competitive right now. I think the deck is fine. I don't think it's a deck that is like the worst in any regards, but it is kind of like weirdly linear. You're really kind of dependent on your Rebecca combo on curve for your immediate value. If you miss that there's a lot of times where you just kind of run out of resources. I find like my own testing, the deck is either just like clearly like you're in the driver's seat, or you're just like you have a bunch of like clunky cards and you just really can't do anything either. So you're kind of also dependent on finding your stage on turn 1 or 2, and if you don't find it by then, you're kind of behind too. But I don't think the deck is wrong, and I don't think it's bad, but it is something that is it feels like it's just missing like a little bit of something to make it really consistent and very competitive. So like, or at least like top like tier 1 kind of potential there. So we're gonna leave it in highly competitive, but I definitely see Usopp getting some tops and some usage in the next couple weeks as well. And then for our last leader from the set, we do have Eustace Kid. I'm going to put this in highly competitive. This might be a little bit too high. It might be supposed to, I'll leave it in competitive. Actually, we'll put it right here. I think the deck is good, and I do think people are playing it, and it will top in this format too. But it kind of does get gatekept by a couple cards, including, ironically, 8-drop Kid. I think in a lot of the green decks that happen, like the burn damage that you get to do is unparalleled, I think, from leaders that we've seen previously. But it also is kind of dependent on that. And if your opponent's able to kind of defend up or, supply some blockers, like this deck kind of just runs out of value or kind of things to do. And again, it can get walled out pretty effectively too. So we're going to put it in competitive. I do think Kid is still good and is going to be probably getting some tops in this format too, but maybe not on like the same level as Smoker or maybe Usopp. Again, Usopp I can definitely see falling down in the next couple weeks, but we'll leave it highly competitive right now. So generally speaking, I don't think any of the new leaders are in the top 5. Also, our new leader from Star Deck 21, Luffy, I'm going to put it right here on unlikely. I think there are just better red leaders that just exist that you can use the cards you get from the Star Deck outside of Luffy. Like the effect of getting the extra Dawn every turn is really strong, but Smoker essentially gets the 2 Dawn for free every turn anyways, which is really strong, and like you get the red-green card pool, so that almost just kind of outclasses you what you want to do. You can be more like aggressive and like rush heavy, but you do just kind of run out of resources a lot of the time. So I don't know. We're going to leave it right here, but I think there's some better red decks, including the next ones we're going to talk about, which includes the Shanks here. So I think Shanks is going to be one of the better leaders in this format, kind of by default, I guess, is the way to say it. I do think that it's a very strong deck right now, and a lot of people are on it. It is sometimes potentially like a little bit linear. And honestly, like I've been talking to a lot of people who've been playing Shanks, and just like, I like the deck, it wins, but sometimes it just loses, right? So I feel like there isn't a lot of control, that there's only like a couple decisions I get to make every game, and because of that, sometimes I win, like no questions asked, and sometimes I lose, and there's not really much I can do. So I don't generally like what the playstyle is like right now, but I know a lot of people are very committed to it. I think it's going to do very well for this format too, but there is just kind of that mentality of like, well, I hope I get my top end at the end of the game and it's the right top end, otherwise I just kind of lose. So in general, I think Shanks is in a really good spot, and it's going to continue to do very well in this format as well. And then also talking about red, we do have Zoro. We're going to put this in the top 5. I think Shanks is kind of like more of like a mid-range, not like Shanks is not even like a super late game deck, right? We just get to have a little bit extra time with our leader effect to be able to drop our big bodies later in the game. Zoro is just still the aggressive deck it's always kind of been. So I think Zoro is still top 5 in this format right now. It might bump down to highly competitive, but I think it's one of the 5 best leaders that exist right now in this game. And it's just been very clear that this red aggressive has been really good, with Doflamingo like a little bit less present, and like Rob Lucci being less present too. Zoro's been able to get a lot of groundwork because of that as well. Continuing our red leaders, we've got Marco, which I'm biased. I'm biased for my boy Marco. I'm going to put him in like competitive. I do think the deck is really good right now. There's a lot of cool stuff you get to do with it. I think EBO2 also helps with the deck right now too, but I don't think the deck is wrong or bad in a lot of ways. There's a lot of good matchups you're able to get because of the abilities that you do. You get like potentially the best removal in this game too, which is really strong. But I don't think it is much more than competitive at the moment. So you do, I do feel like you can get rushed down a little bit. And as always, it's hard to be a control deck when you're only at 4 life at the beginning of the game compared to a 5 life. And again, you can just get super rushed down because of that. But if you're able to kind of get some control, get your footing, Marco does have, again, a lot of removal, has a lot of end game pressure. And I personally really like enjoying the list, or playing the deck in general, but I think we're just going to leave it in competitive. And then also we've got Betty. I think Betty's also in like a pretty good competitive sense. I think Zoro is probably just the better like red aggressive deck, but Betty still does exist as a deck that you can use. I feel like the consistency for the deck is a little bit lower because you are dependent on sometimes getting the right triggers out of life at the right time, and you have to also and be able to use like your leader effect, and that just runs out of your resources really quickly. But in general, I think this deck is really strong. I think that this is there are a lot of polarizing matchups because of it too, and by how quickly you're able to be aggressive, and because of that, you can really punish 4 life leaders, which I think are going to be pretty present in this meta in the first place. So we've got Betty there, and then red purple Luffy. This is one of my favorite decks from the OP09 format. And I think that it's probably still in like competitive. It was good in my mind in OP09 because it was doing pretty well against the decks that existed. Dofi being a little bit less strong, and also Lucci being a little bit less present, especially Ice Age to remove our big bodies, is I think something that helps this deck. But I do think that the inclusion of like Zoro being just a really fast aggressive deck is a little bit scary for us as as a 3 life leader, even though we are a 6K. And then also like Teach is kind of a rough matchup, as well as just a couple other things. So I think like Luffy is just okay. I think people will definitely be trying it, but it's not my favorite spot right now compared to where we were in OP09. So there it is. Next up, we've got Bonnie, which I think is clearly in one of the top spots for this deck, for this meta right now. Probably our best generic green deck, if you want to call it a generic green deck. But with the defensive opportunities that we have right now, the fact that Ice Age isn't around to get rid of our bigger bodies, it's really good. We can be set up a really good wall with 8-drop Kid potentially as well. This deck is really, really strong right now compared to where it's been previously, and I think it's just got a lot of good matchups too. So the fact that our leader ability just shuts off some decks from existing, specifically like I was just mentioning it, like red purple Luffy, we play like 1 body a turn, and then if we're able to just like remove it and like be able to make only 1 attack from our opponent, we're like never afraid of losing the game because your opponent's just not going to even be able to get enough attacks to do anything either. So I think this deck is really good. I think also like Cody Jones is in a really good spot in this format right now, and Bonnie's one of the better cards to take advantage of it. So we're going to leave it right there in the top 5. We've got our green purple leaders right now too. So we've got Lim. Lim, I think it just has potential, to be honest. I did a lot of testing with this deck, and I've been trying a lot of different builds. Even the day of recording this, I did some more testing, and I just think Lim's okay. I feel like it's still like missing a little bit of something. I feel like it's really sad that we're really dependent on finding our 1-drop on turn 1, and then if we don't go first and we don't find it, then we're just such a bad spot for winning the game. But we do still, I think, have some good qualities with Lim in general, but I just feel like the consistency still isn't there for the deck for it to be very strong either. And then we also have green and purple Dofi. I've been really enjoying this deck. This is secretly one of my favorite decks to be playing right now. I think that the consistency we get right now is fantastic. The fact that we have this whole new purple support for green purple Dofi is fantastic. The fact that I don't think I've missed on an off-white in like the last 20 games I've played with this deck, because we have so many green and purple Dofi cards that we can put in our decks right now, and it's moderately consistent to be able to play 10-drop Dofi 2 turns in a row to be able to get the pressure, and without like Ice Age and Lucci running around, and Gecko Mori in itself too, like we're not really punished very easily with those cards not existing right now. So because of that, I think that again, we're in a good spot with green purple Dofi. I might even move it up to competitive in a little bit, but this is just my pet deck for right now. We'll leave it right here in potential, but we'll see how it does in the next couple weeks. Talking about Dofi, we got blue Dofi, and I still think this deck is really, really good in this format. We did lose Jinbei, but honestly, the more and more I've been doing testing, Jinbei is kind of one of the extension cards where I wouldn't even say like it was a win more card, but if you were trying to do your best opener, Jinbei was definitely part of that. So being able to make your best play a little bit worse does mean Dofi is like not as like explosive as it used to be, but it's still pretty consistent, and you're still being able to put out like a lot of bodies very quickly and pressure a lot of your opponents. So 4-drop Law, I think, is something that like if you have Teach and 4-drop Law and Boa, those 3 cards, like those are the ones that you really care about, I think, in Doflamingo. With access to all 3 of those and the consistency from the deck, I still think you have to respect how good Doflamingo is in this format. So I don't think the deck is dead in any regard, and looking forward to seeing if that's true for the next couple weeks. But I do think the deck is still in a really, really good spot. Next up, you've got Nami, and I think Nami is likely probably put it in competitive. It's maybe even like in highly competitive, but we're gonna leave it in competitive. We do have like I feel like a lot more of like lower to the ground aggressive decks that exist right now, which makes it a little bit tougher for Nami. But without that, there's also, I think, some more control decks that like Bonnie. Bonnie, sometimes if you don't see your Hody Jones, you're in a rough spot to be able to end out some games. But I also think Nami just sometimes gets there every, occasionally if you have some good triggers out of life. So we're going to put it in competitive for right now, but it can definitely jump up a little couple spots. Next up, we got Reiju, and we're going to put Reiju in potential. I've been seeing some people play some builds, and we did get like the new one drop Vinsmoke Sanji, which that does help the deck exponentially, I think. And we also get some new stuff in OP11 as well. Honestly, the biggest reason I'm putting this card in potential is because I haven't played enough to make it so that I'm really confident to say that it's better than this. So this is more just on me, but I've seen a lot of people testing it, and I think Reiju does have potential to get some tops in this format. I just haven't played enough to have much of an opinion outside of that, but there it is. Next up, we got Boa, and this is based off a little bit more of like JCM saying that this deck is absurd right now. I think it's just okay, to be honest. I think Blue Doflamingo is still just better in that blue spot, right? Like I do think that Boa, with the fact that Gecko Moria and Ice Age are gone, like it does have spots to be like the better defensive deck for being able to get value every turn, right? If you have 5 or less cards, you're able to draw every time a card's removed, which is really easy to do. I think Boa got hurt more from Jinbei being removed than Dofi did, though, because I think that you do need to have a wider board so you can spend the turn every turn to be able to get rid of bodies. But I think Boa is still in a good spot. I'm curious to see how it does in a long-term format like this, but we're going to put it in competitive right now. Foxy, I'm going to put in potential. It didn't really... we did get like, what, a new 2K, I believe, so that did help the deck. And Foxy was doing okay, I think, in the OP09 meta, too. We did get the occasional top here and there, so you're going to leave it here in potential, and we're going to see if that changes any bit. So next up, we've got Luffy. And honestly, if we are doing a top 6, which this is my video, I could definitely do a top 6, but we're not. So without that, I think Luffy is definitely in that potential of the top 5, top 6 range for this meta right now. I'm going to leave it here at the height of highly competitive. It didn't really change, and it does, I think, kind of fail a little bit to Zoro and potentially Bonnie in some kind of situations. Dofi is still like a bit of a bad matchup, but without Jinbei, like, right, they don't get as an explosive of a start. But I think this deck is still really viable right now. Don't let me say that this deck is bad. I'm not saying that, but if I'm arbitrarily making a top 5, I think Luffy is like the 6th best deck in the format right now. So we're gonna leave it right there. We've got our purple and yellow leaders. We've got Pudding, and we also have Nico Robin. I think Nico Robin's probably the better of the two, and I do think that this does have potential to be like a really good ramp deck right now. Pudding as well, right? Like we can kind of consistently get to 10 drops, and I do think Pudding gets better with OP11 with all the purple Katakuri support that ends up working with Pudding as well. But we're just going to leave these right here in these spots. I think that they can do some work, but I'm not fully confident in them right yet. Next up, we've got Teach, which I think Teach is in top 5. It's definitely going to be one of the most played decks in this format, but the one thing that I will say that this is the same thing it was in OP09 is that if you want to play Teach, you have to fully commit to playing Teach, right? It is completely different than playing really any other leader in the game right now, and sometimes I feel like you have to be a little bit like you have to put more effort into playing Teach and learning your matchups than you do have to conversely playing Dofi sometimes, right? Dofi sometimes still just wins because you're able to get a strong start, and you do kind of the similar thing in most matchups, though there are differences to your gameplay a lot of the time. I'm not trying to say Dofi's linear in any way, but Teach is definitely the deck where you need to know your matchups. Your deck list is not, you don't have as much room in your deck list because you have to play so many of your Blackbeard Pirate cards to have like your flex spots, and you do have some somewhat polarizing matchups as well. So I'm curious to see how Teach does. I think it's going to be better in this format than it was in OP09, and the fact that Dofi's like a little bit less strong, I think is good, but Zoro being around does hurt, I think, Teach as well. And but I do think it's going to be one of the better decks in this format right now, so we're going to leave it there. Next up, we've got Rob Lucci, and I honestly, like, the more I've been seeing this, I think Lucci's still in a good spot. And obviously Gecko Mori was a strong card. I'm not going to say it wasn't. Obviously Ice Age was a really strong card. I would say that Lucci probably misses Ice Age a little bit more than Gecko Moria. You guys can have your own opinions on that, but Regardless, you definitely miss both those cards, but without them, Lucci can kind of transform into kind of like this weird like mid-range removal deck that I've been seeing a lot of people have a good amount of success with as well. So as long as we still have Rebecca, I think that's probably the most broken value card for a deck like this, being able to get like your free value. The fact that you still have like the half of the Spandine combo is good, because like if you have, you know, your one Rebecca 4-drop, you play it for 4 and then you're able to get a Spandine and a Rob Lucci out, which means that you get to draw a card, like you get to play out the Spandine. Like being able to put 3 bodies on board with a blocker and get some removal potential without using more than one card in your hand is still going to be, I think, a broken ability for Rebecca, and that Rob Lucci can take advantage of. So with that, I think Lucci's still around. I definitely think Lucci is worse, and there's a lot of people kind of adapting to that, but we're going to leave that here in highly competitive. And we've also got Smoker, the one from OP10. I think Smoker is fine. I think that Rob Lucci might be a little bit better. It's pretty close. Smoker did also miss the removal of Ice Age. I don't think like Echo, like Ice Age for sure for Smoker, right? Gecko Moria was a strong card, but Smoker didn't really have like the same combos or abuse that like Rob Lucci was able to use with that card, and because of that, like our removal is like a little bit less effective because of it. But we still have like our Tashigi. We can still play like Hina. Tashigi still gets a lot of removal potential with, which I think is really strong, and we can also do our own Rebecca combos. But I think by and large, I think Rob Lucci's probably in a better spot. So, and then to kind of wrap it up, we do have just a couple more decks. We've got Luffy, BY. I'm just gonna put this on in unlikely. I don't really think this deck is really good right now. I do think there's a way to change it. I know a lot of people have been talking about changing it, but I just haven't seen it personally, so we're just going to leave it here in the unlikely column. So if there is a build that works, I would love to see it, and I hope I get to see that in the near future. Katakuri, I'm going to probably put in the competitive. It's you know, the same deck that's been since essentially relaunch of OP3, right? We just are aggressively leaning with our Katakuris. We play our 10 drops, right? And then we are able to do some value. So I do think it can get rushed down by Zoro and Dofi a little bit more. Bonnie can probably stabilize against it, and Teach can also just turn off the 10 drop effects. But I think it still can be aggressive enough against some decks, so it's still worth it. And now, just the fact that we lost Kingdom Come just feels so bad for the deck. I do think that there is like an aggressive leaning version of Enel that can exist too, but I haven't done enough testing myself, so I do think the deck can still be around, but it is going to be completely different than its own play style. So I do want to mention it there. And then this is just kind of a precursor. Green Purple, Luffy's going to be the best deck in the format once it comes out, I think, in EBO2, unless something changes. This card is a menace. It is this is a really, really strong deck for this format, and so I know this is top 5, but you guys gotta respect this deck is going to be very good once we get into EBO2, and that's going to be probably a good amount of it. So that's going to be pretty much the end of this video. I know you guys like to skip to this part, so I will just go over this again real quickly for anyone who just jumped over here. But top 5, excluding the green and purple Luffy, we've got, and honestly, like, there's not a lot of like orders around any of these. I think these are mostly all the same power level. I think the only one that I would accept is that purple Luffy is probably on the fringe here, in between, you know, like it's probably the 6th best leader right now in my mind. So I would put it way, you know, in between these two if I could, but I'm lazy, so I'm not going to do that. But I think top 5 leaders right now are Shanks, Zoro, Bonnie, Dofi, and Teach, not in necessarily that order. Just I think these 5 are very strong in this current format. Highly competitive are Luffy, Smoker, Usopp, and Rob Lucci. Competitive are Nami, Eustace, Captain Kidd, Marco, Betty, the red purple Luffy, Boa, Smoker from OPO2, and Katakuri. And then these are just decks that, again, I've been having some fun with using potentially. I think like green purple Dofi, of all the decks that I've been testing, I think this is a deck that has the most potential to get a top right now. But then we also have red purple Sugar, we have Law, we have Lim. Like Law, I think also can probably maybe move a little bit to the left here, because I know a lot of people have been testing this. And probably Lim. I wish this deck would work for me. I just haven't found a build that I like. But then we've got Reiju, Foxy, purple, yellow, of both the Robin and the Pudding, the Enel, and then our unlikelies, Caesar Clown, Sardek Luffy, and the Sardek 13 Luffy, which I think this deck can exist, but it has to change completely how it's been playing for the last pretty much year that it's been out. And so because of that, it's kind of back to square one if there's a way to use our leader effect the most effectively, and we have to be more aggressive leaning. There's no way to, recycle our 2 drops anymore. And because of that, like the deck has to just change into more like it just has to change in general, which is like a little bit tough to do. So anyways, I don't have much more to say. Let me know what you guys think about this. I know this is just going to be a very, polarizing tier list, or at least just very opinionated one. We don't have really any data right now for this OP10 format with these restrictions. And again, we're going to have a lot of data in the next couple weeks. We're going to update my website, Eggman Events, and then probably in about a month from now, we'll do an updated tier list based on results too. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.